The following is a class on the Bhagavad Gita as it is, chapter number 4, text number 34, given by His Grace Sriman Sankarshan Das Adhikari, recorded on March 14th, 2007, in Sofia, Bulgaria.
So tonight we are reading from Srimad Bhagavad Gita as it is, chapter 4, text number 34, Bhagavad Gita. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Tadvidi pranipatena pariprashnena sevaya upadekshanti te jnanam jnaninas tatvadarshinaha. Translation. Just try to learn the truth by approaching a spiritual master. Inquire from him submissively and render service unto him. The self-realized souls can impart knowledge unto you because they have seen the truth. Purport. The path of spiritual realization is undoubtedly difficult. The Lord therefore advises us to approach a bona fide spiritual master in the line of disciplic succession from the Lord Himself. No one can be a bona fide spiritual master without following this principle of disciplic succession. The Lord is the original spiritual master, and a person in the disciplic succession can convey the message of the Lord as it is to his disciple. No one can be spiritually realized by manufacturing his own process, as is the fashion of the foolish pretenders. The Bhagavatam 6.3.19 says, Dharmang tu sakshat bhagavat pranitam. The path of religion is directly enunciated by the Lord. Therefore, mental speculation or dry arguments cannot help lead one to the right path, nor by independent study of books of knowledge can one progress in spiritual life. One has to approach a bona fide spiritual master to receive the knowledge. Such a spiritual master should be accepted in full surrender, and one should serve the spiritual master like a menial servant, without false prestige. Satisfaction of the self-realized spiritual master is the secret of advancement in spiritual life. Inquiries and submission constitute the proper combination for spiritual understanding. Unless there is submission and service, inquiries from the learned spiritual master will not be effective. One must be able to pass the test of the spiritual master. And when he sees the genuine desire of the disciple, he automatically blesses the disciple with genuine spiritual understanding. In this verse, both blind following and absurd inquiries are condemned. Not only should one hear submissively from the spiritual master, but one must also get a clear understanding from him in submission and service and inquiries. A bona fide spiritual master is by nature very kind toward the disciple. Therefore, when the student is submissive and is always ready to render service, the reciprocation of knowledge and inquiries becomes perfect. Om Jnanatimrandasya Gananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam yena tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Shtapitam Yena Bhutale Svayam Rupa Gadamayam Didati Svapadantikam. So, this is one of the most important verses in the entire Vedic wisdom. If we want to make actual advancement in Krishna consciousness, then we must follow this instruction of Sri Krishna. Sometimes the neophyte practitioner of Krishna consciousness thinks that he will become Krishna conscious without accepting a guru. He thinks that he will simply accept Krishna as his spiritual master. Krishna is our spiritual master, there is no doubt. We must accept Krishna as our spiritual master. But what does accepting a spiritual master mean? It means obedience. So Krishna is given an order here. If someone has actually accepted Krishna as my master, then he must obey this order. If Krishna had wanted us to only accept him as the spiritual master, this verse would have been stated differently. It would have said, just try to learn the truth by approaching me. Inquire from me submissively and render service unto me. I can impart knowledge unto you because I have seen the truth. If Krishna had wanted you to accept him as the guru, that's what he would have said. Krishna is not afraid of saying me. He says it again and again throughout the whole Gita. How many times does he say me? Manmano mabad bhakto majhaji mang namaskaru mamme vashishi yuktvai atmanang matpadayana. Engage your mind always in thinking of me. Offer obeisances and worship me. Being completely absorbed in me. Certainly you will come to me. Sarvadharman parityaja, surrender to me. Krishna says me throughout the whole Bhagavad Gita. But in this verse he doesn't say me. He says Guru. You should approach the spiritual master. So we have to understand them. And this is confirmed in the Mundaka Upanishad. Tad viganartam sagarume va bigachat. You must approach Guru if you want to realize the highest truth.
реализираш най-висшата истина.
It is confirmed also in the Srimad Bhagavatam, Tasmad Gurum Prapadye Cha Jigashu Shreya Uttamam.
Това се потвърждава и в Шримад Бхагаватам.
If you want to realize that which is ultimately beneficial,
Ако искаш да реализираш това, което е
then you must approach the bona fide spiritual master and take shelter of him by initiation.
Тогава трябва да се обърнеш към духовен учител и да приемаш подслон при него чрез посвещение.
But still someone says, well, that's all right, but I'll just advance without having a spiritual master.
Някой може да каже, това е добре, но аз ще напредна и без духовен учител.
But Srila Prabhupada explains in the Nectar of Devotion,
Но Шрила Прабхупада обяснява в Нектара на предаността,
in the introduction,
в въведението, в увода,
that unless you have a guru, the connection with Krishna doesn't even take place.
Докато нямаш гуру, връзката с Кришна не се осъществява.
You may have a very nice lamp,
Може да имате много хубава лампа,
and you may have a very good, suitable powerhouse here in Sofia.
може да имате много хубава мощна електроцентрала тук в София.
But if this lamp is not plugged into the powerhouse, you're going to get zero light out of it.
Но ако тази лампа не е включена към електроцентралата, ще имате нула осветление.
So the spiritual master is the plug,
Духовният учител е контактник,
the socket where you put the plug into.
Той е контакта, в който трябва да включите.
Until you take shelter of the bona fide spiritual master, you are not connected with Krishna. That's what Prabhupada said.
Докато не се свържете, докато не приемате подслон при авторитетен духовен учител, просто не сте свързан с Кришна. Това казва Прабхупада.
So guru is very, very important.
Така че гуру е много, много важен.
For those of you who observe Mangal Arti every day, you know we sing a very beautiful song.
За тези от вас, които следват Мангал Арти всеки ден, знаете, че там се пее една много хубава песен.
Gurvashtakam.
Гурваштакам.
Yasha prasadahan bhagavat prasado Yasha prasadan nagati kutopi. You see, Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, one of the great acharyas in our sampradaya, has stated very clearly,
Шрила Вишванат Чакраварти Такур, един от великите ачарии в нашата сампрадая, е казал много ясно.
by the mercy of the spiritual master, one makes spiritual advancement.
По милостта на духовния учител, човек осъществява духовен напредък.
Without his grace, you don't make any progress.
Без неговата милост не може да направите никакъв напредък.
And then he says, Dayam stuvam stasya yasastri sanjam Vande guroshi charanaravidam. He said, therefore, one should always remember and worship his spiritual master, and at least 3 times a day he should offer his respectful obeisances under the lotus feet of his spiritual master.
Човек трябва да почита духовния си, да обожава духовния си учител и поне 3 пъти на ден да отдава смирените си почитания на него.
If you want to get a very easy way to understand the importance of the spiritual master, just study how Prabhupada talked about his spiritual master.
Ако искате да разберете наистина важността на духовния учител, просто се запознайте с това как Шрила Прабхупада говори за собствения си духовен учител.
Just try to understand the feelings that Srila Prabhupada had for his spiritual master, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur.
Просто вижте чувството, което Шрила Прабхупада има към своя духовен учител, Шрила Бхактисиданта Сарасвати.
And then you will understand how important is the spiritual master to the disciple.
И така тогава ще разберете колко наистина важен е духовният учител за ученик.
The very first point that Srila Prabhupada makes in his purport is this.
Първата точка, която Шрила Прабхупада прави в своя коментар, е тази.
The path of spiritual realization
Пътят на духовната реализация
is undoubtedly very difficult.
е несъмнено много труден.
Therefore, he's saying the Lord advises us to approach the spiritual master.
Затова той казва, Бог ни съветва да се обърнем към духовен учител.
What does this mean when Prabhupada says this?
Какво означава това, когато Прабхупад казва това?
This means by approaching the spiritual master,
Това означава, като се обърнем към духовен учител,
it's no longer difficult.
това вече не е трудно.
By the mercy of Guru, it becomes easy.
По милостта на Гуру това става лесно.
So, would you rather have difficulty in Krishna consciousness?
И така вие...
Or would you rather have an easy path?
Какво бихте предпочели? Да имате трудности или пътя ви да е лесен?
It's your choice.
Изборът е ваш.
Would you like to have an easy pathway back to home, back to Godhead?
Искате ли пътя ви към обратно към
Or would you like to have a rough road?
Или искате един много трънлив път?
Full of potholes and detours?
Пълен с отклонения
What would you like?
и дупки.
You can choose. You can take the lotus feet of Guru, or you can take your own mental speculation.
Трябва да решите какво може да изберете. Може да изберете.
Because that's the reality. If you don't take shelter of Guru, you're just going on your own. You're taking your mind as Guru, actually.
Дали искате лотосовите на Гуру или вашите собствени умствени спекулации?
Mano Rata.
Защото това е истината. Ако не приемете духовен учител, приемете ума си за духовен учител.
The chariot of the mind.
Мана рата. Колесницата на ума.
Where do you think your mind will take you?
Къде си мислите, че ще ви отведе ума ви?
Do you think it will take you back to Godhead?
Мислите ли, че ще ви отведе обратно при Бога?
Or do you think it will keep you in the cycle of birth and death?
Или че ще ви задържи в кръга на раждането и смъртта?
You've been following your mind for millions of lifetimes.
Може да следвате ума си милиони животи.
Where has it gotten you?
Вие сте го правили вече.
It's gotten you another rotting body here in Sofia, Bulgaria.
И сте получили още едно гниещо тяло тук в София, в България.
Isn't it?
Нали така?
Another damn rotting body here in Bulgaria.
Прогнило тяло тук в София, в България.
There's a saying,
Има една поговорка.
if you do what you've always done,
Ако правите това, което винаги сте правили,
you'll get what you've always gotten.
получите това, което винаги сте получавали.
Is it enough?
Не ви ли стига?
Does it satisfy you?
Това удовлетворява ли?
So you have to carefully study, is it worth following my mind for another lifetime?
Така че трябва внимателно да изучите дали си струва да следвате ума си още един живот.
Even if you're not sure about Krishna consciousness,
Дори ако не сте сигурни за Кришна съзнание,
even if you say, well, it sounds pretty good, but I don't know, maybe it's hype.
дори ако си кажете, това звучи доста добре, ма всъщност може би е...
My question for you is this.
Може би е хипотеза.
What do you have to lose by trying it for one lifetime?
Моят въпрос към вас е какво ще загубите, ако опитате за един живот?
You've been caught in the cycle of birth and death for millions of births.
Вие сте пленени в кръговрата на раждането и смъртта за...
If Krishna consciousness is hype, what will it hurt you if you spend one lifetime chanting Hare Krishna?
Ако Кришна съзнание е просто хипотеза, какво ще загубите, ако прекарате един живот в...
If it was hype, you'll simply take birth again, that's all.
бързо, просто ще се родите отново. Това е всичко.
You won't lose anything.
Няма да загубите нищо.
But if it's true,
Но ако е истина,
you'll go back to Godhead.
ще се върнете обратно при Бога.
So why not take the gamble?
Така че защо да не се обзаложите? Защо не поемете риска?
Give it a try.
Просто опитайте.
Haven't you tried everything else?
Не сте ли опитали вече всичко друго?
In your millions of lifetimes?
През милионите си животи.
You've been a Brahmaji.
Били сте брамаджи.
You've been an Indra.
Били сте Индра.
You've been a prime minister.
Били сте премиер, министър.
You've been a dog.
Били сте куче.
You've been a cat.
Били сте...
You've been a heterosexual.
Били сте хетеросексуален.
You've been a homosexual.
Били сте хомосексуален.
You've been a bisexual.
Бисексуален.
You've tried everything in your millions of lifetimes.
Опитали сте всичко през милионите си раждани.
And where has it gotten you?
Какво сте получили?
You're simply stuck in another rotting corpse, that's all.
Просто сте, пак сте в едно такова, още едно гниещо тяло. Това е.
So why not give one lifetime to Guru and Krishna?
Така че защо да не отдадете един живот на Гуру и Кришна?
And see what is the result.
И да видите какво ще последва.
If Krishna is indeed the Supreme Personality of Godhead,
Кришна наистина е върховната божествена личност.
you're going to win the greatest fortune.
Вие ще спечелите най-голямото богатство.
And even if he's not, you're going to have fun chanting Hare Krishna and taking prasadam.
Добре ще се позабавлявате, като пеете Харе Кришна и приемате прасада.
Who has food like this? Who has music like this?
Кой има такава храна?
Who has such wonderful friends like we have with each other, you see?
Прекрасни приятели, каквито
These are the Hare Krishna people, the most wonderful people that I've ever met anywhere in the world.
Харе Кришна са най-прекрасните хора, които може да види, да намери където и да било.
I travel all over the world. With Mataji and I, we travel all over the world. We simply want to know where are the Hare Krishna people. They're the best people.
Ние с Матаджи сме пътували навсякъде по света, но просто всеки където отидаме и просто питаме къде са Харе Кришна.
This material world is like a vast desert.
Този материален свят е като голяма, огромна пустиня.
But the Hare Krishna people, they are like oasis in the desert.
Но Харе Кришна, хората са като оазис в пустиня.
So in this way, what do you have to lose? You have a wonderful life with beautiful music, wonderful food, beautiful people.
Така че, какво може да загубите? Имате прекрасна храна, прекрасна музика и
And if it's really true, then you attain the spiritual world.
И ако наистина е вярно, ще отидете в духовния свят.
You'll never get sick.
Никога няма да се разболеете.
You'll never get old.
Никога няма да оздравеете.
And you'll never die.
И никога няма да умирате.
But you know something?
Знаете ли какво?
It really is true. Krishna really is the Supreme Personality of Godhead.
Кришна наистина е върховната божествена личност.
And if you will devote your life to Him through the medium of the bona fide spiritual master, if you will devote your life to Krishna through the medium of the bona fide spiritual master,
чрез един авторитетен духовен учител,
you will regain your eternal identity in the spiritual world.
ще възвърнете истинската си идентичност в духовния свят.
Therefore, we invite you all to chant Hare Krishna.
Затова ви приканваме всички да възпявате Харе Кришна.
Under the guidance of the bona fide spiritual master.
Под ръководството на авторитетен духовен учител.
And be happy.
И да бъдете щастливи.
Shri Shri Gaurnitai ki jai, Jagannath Baladev Subhadra ki jai, Sadbhuja ki jai. So, now I can ask if there's any questions.
Сега можете да зададете някакви въпроси. Има два въпроса.
В коментара се казва, че тук се осъждат сляпото следване и предизвикателните въпроси.
In the purpose, it is said that here are condemned the
Blind following.
follow and challenging questions.
Yes, that's right.
If you can say something about overcoming these moods.
Yes. In the Bhagavad Gita, both, as Prabhupada explains here, blind following is condemned and absurd inquiries are condemned.
В Бхагавад Гита Прабхупад казва, че се осъждат в коментара, се осъждат сляпото следване и абсурдните запитвания.
This means you should not accept these things without understanding how they are true.
Това означава, че не трябва да приемате тези неща, без да разбирате.
For example, if I asked you, is Krishna God?
Например, ако аз ви кажа,
And you said,
питам дали Кришна е Бог и вие кажете,
and you said, yes, Krishna is God.
да, Кришна е Бог.
Then I ask you, how do you know that Krishna is God?
И аз ви попитам, откъде знаете, че Кришна е Бог?
And you said, well, I don't know.
И вие кажете ми, да знам.
That's blind following, you see.
Това е сляпо следване.
You have to be able to explain how you know that Krishna is God.
Трябва да сте способни да обясните как знаете, откъде знаете, че Кришна е Бог.
And this is quite easy to understand.
Това е съвсем лесно да се разбере.
The great sage Parashara Muni
Великият мъдрец Парашара Муни
has given the test by which we can determine who is God.
На него му бил даден един тест, с който той може да установи кой е Бог.
He explains that God is Bhagavan.
Не, той е дал такъв тест. Той е обяснил, че Бог е Бхагаван.
Bhaga means opulence.
Бага означава богатство.
And Van means the possessor of.
А Ван означава притежателят на.
So what are the different types of bhaga or opulences?
И така, Ван означава различни, този, който притежава различни.
There are 6 primary types of opulences.
Има 6 основни вида богатство.
Power,
сила,
beauty,
красота,
renunciation,
отреченост,
knowledge,
знание,
wealth,
богатство
and fame.
и слава.
Power, beauty, renunciation, knowledge, wealth, and fame. These are the 6 opulences.
Това са 6 съвършенства или достояния.
So whoever possesses these 6 opulences in greater quantity than anyone else,
И така този, който притежава тези 6 съвършенства в по-голямо количество от когото и да било друг,
that person is God.
тази личност е Бог.
So you can tell the person that so far we have seen Krishna has more of these opulences than anyone else.
Така ние сме видяли, че Кришна има повече от тези съвършенства от когото и да било.
Therefore we accept that Krishna is God.
И затова приемаме, че Кришна е Бог.
But if you can bring someone else who has more of these 6 opulences than Krishna,
Но ако може да доведете някой друг, който има повече от тези 6 достояния, отколкото от Кришна,
then we will accept that person as the Supreme Personality of
ще
Godhead.
приемаме тази личност за върховната божествена личност.
In fact, you can tell that person, you can say, my dear sir,
И всъщност може да кажете на тази личност, скъпи, драги ми господине, драги господине,
if you can show me that you have more power,
ако може да ми покажете
more beauty,
повече сила, повече красота,
more renunciation,
повече отречение,
more knowledge,
повече знание,
more wealth,
повече богатство
and more fame than Krishna,
и повече слава от Кришна,
and I will bow down at your feet and accept you as God.
тогава аз ще падна в краката ви и ще ви приемат за Бога.
So my dear sir, try to understand that we do not blindly accept Krishna as God.
Така че, скъпи господине, моля опитайте да разберете, че ние не приемаме сляпо Кришна за Бог.
We accept Krishna as God on the basis of scientific evidence.
Ние приемаме Кришна за Бог в основата на научни доказателства.
So in this way, blind following is condemned.
сляпото следване се осъжда.
Now what about absurd inquiries?
Какво да кажем за
If one doesn't really want to understand, if one is inquiring without a view of trying to understand what is being spoken, and is simply trying to defeat the speaker,
ако някой не опитва чрез въпросите си да разбере какво е било казано, просто се опитва да предизвика говорещи.
that's an absurd inquiry.
Това е несъстоятелно запитване.
One should not approach a spiritual master to insult him or try to defeat him.
Това човек не трябва да се обръща към духовния си учител, като го оскърбява и опитва да го предизвика.
One should take advantage of the presence of a self-realized soul to learn something from him, how you can also become a self-realized soul.
Човек трябва да се възползва от присъствието на себе реализирала се душа, за да научи нещо от него, как самия той да стане така.
So, are there any other questions? Yeah.
Много от коментарите на Прабхупада намираме съвета, че духовен учител никога не бива да се напуска, ученика не бива да напуска духовен учител. Има само рядко може да се случи това, изключително рядко, когато духовен учител има някакво неправилно поведение. Но въпросът ми е такъв. Ученика никога няма квалификация да може така, нали съм го разбрала, няма квалификация да прецени постъпките на духовния учител. Как може да разбере той момент? Според мен никога не бива да напуска духовния учител и въпросът ми е кой трябва, коя тая личност, която да му каже, че това духовен учител сега трябва да бъде напуснат.
Sure, but he said in many purports that one should never leave his spiritual master, but in some rare cases, when the spiritual master gets some incorrect behavior or something, this is point that should be done. But the disciple cannot have no qualification to judge the behavior of his spiritual master, and in that case, what should be the...
If the spiritual master doesn't, if the disciple...
He has no qualification to judge the deeds of his guru, and in that case, how...
Why the disciple doesn't... The disciple should be well... disciple means one should be well read in Prabhupada's books.
Защо да няма? Ученик означава, че човек трябва да е добре запознат, добре да е чел книгите на Шрила Прабхупада.
We'd instruct all of our disciples in ISKCON, of all the gurus, everyone must read Prabhupada's books very thoroughly and completely.
Ние казваме на всички ученици, на всички учители в ISKCON, че трябва да четат книгите на Шрила Прабхупада напълно и...
So even if by some chance the spiritual master falls into difficulty, the disciple will be strong because he has read Prabhupada's books very thoroughly.
Така че дори духовният учител да изпадне в някакво затруднение, ученикът трябва да може да бъде силен, понеже е чел книгите на Прабхупада много добре. She asked, who can tell that really the guru has fallen?
Yes, the Teshang Chatata Yuktanang Bhajatam Priti Purvakam Dadami Buddhiyogam Tam Yenamam Upayanti Te. If one has followed all the instructions of Krishna very carefully,
ако човек е следвал всички инструкции на Кришна много внимателно,
with full sincerity,
с пълна отдаденост, искреност, напълно искрено,
then Krishna will give you the intelligence to know.
Тогава Кришна ще ви даде интелигентността да разберете.
Simply one has to be sincere and Krishna will give all intelligence.
Просто трябва да сте искрени и Кришна ще ви даде цялата интелигентност.
Questions more? Yeah.
В лекцията си каза, че трябва да разберем какво е Кришна съзнание посредством четене книгите на Шрила Прабхупада. Обаче практически специално виждам за себе си и за доста опрема, специално в България, че поради една или друга причина редовното четене на книги почти не много рядко срещано, специално в България. И също така съм чувал, че когато практически има нещо завършено, може да се остави теория. Дали точно така или трябва да наложим четене всеки ден като садане.
In the lecture in the morning, he mentioned that Srila Prabhupada said that the disciple have to understand what is Krishna consciousness through the regular reading of his book, the books of Srila Prabhupada. And but here in Bulgaria, it happens to be quite a rare. Many devotees do not do that. Himself, he doesn't do that because he has no good opportunity. And
then you can get some MP3 player and listen to lectures through a headset while you're doing things. Just like today, I shaved my head, and I had heard a very nice lecture of Prabhupada while I was shaving my head.
Просто трябва да си вземеш един MP3 плеер и да слушаш лекции. Как днес аз си обръснах главата и докато го правих, слушах една много хубава лекция на Шрила Прабхупада.
While you're doing your work in the greenhouse, you can hear Prabhupada or your Guru Maharaj or other advanced devotees. You can hear their lectures while you're doing your work.
Докато си вършите работата, просто може да слушате лекции на Шрила Прабхупада и други напреднали отдавна.
I know, I remember when I was the head cook in our Houston temple, I had no time to read.
Спомням си, че когато бях главният готвач в храма в Хюстън, нямах време за четене.
I was working so hard I couldn't believe it.
Работех толкова здраво, че не можех да повярвам.
My 24 hours a day was completely engaged in service.
24 часа от деня ми бяха напълно заети в служба.
I didn't even have time to walk out of the temple building.
Дори нямах време да изляза от храмовата сграда.
I was just totally in the temple the whole time.
Бях изцяло в храма.
All the devotees went on book distribution.
Всички правилно отдавани ходеха на...
Except for me.
Ходеха на Санкиртан с изключение на мен.
I had to offer all the artis, cook all the prasadam, I had to do everything. I had to answer the phone, answer the door, offer the arti, cook the offering, cook the deity sweets, wash the dishes, everything I had to do, the whole temple. There's one thing that saved me. I had a cassette player. And all I had was one cassette of one lecture of Prabhupada. So for a whole year I heard that one lecture over and over again. And I tell you, I never got tired of that lecture. Every time I heard that lecture, it got sweeter and sweeter and sweeter. And I remember Prabhupada said, he said to always be engaged in studying and always be engaged in doing service. So how can you always be studying if you're always doing service? But Prabhupada ordered to do both simultaneously. So how do you do that? How do you study while you're doing service? Or how do you do service while you're studying? Our founder Acharya has ordered us to study 24 hours and to serve 24 hours. So how will we carry out his order?
Как може да изпълним заповедите?
When you take a chemistry course,
Ако имате курс по химия,
there are two parts to the course.
този курс има две части.
There's the there's the lecture section where you study the chemical formulas,
Има тази част с теорията, където изучавате химическите формули.
and there is the laboratory section where you put the formulas to work.
И има лабораторния отдел, където прилагате тези формули.
In the lecture you hear that H2O equals water.
В една лекция може да чуете, че H2O е вода.
And in the laboratory you do it. You combine 2 parts of hydrogen with 1 part of oxygen and you get water.
Лабораторията го прави, го осъществявате. Това комбинирате 2 атома водород с един, 2 атома кислород с един, 2 атома водород с един кислород и се получава и става вода.
So the practical application is actually part of your studies.
Така че практическото приложение всъщност е част от вашето обучение, вашето учене.
You're putting your studies into practical application and seeing how the philosophy is true.
Вие прилагате практически това, което сте учили и виждате как тази философия е истина.
So the point is, while you're engaged in practical service, you should be in a studious, introspective state of mind.
И въпросът е, като прилагате, трябва да сте... Не мога.
You should be studying yourself
Трябва да изучавате себе си
and how you relate with Krishna.
и как сте свързани с Кришна.
You should see that now I'm engaged in doing service for Krishna. Now what am I experiencing? Well, you should be observing yourself just like in a psychological experiment.
Трябва да извършвате някакво служене с Кришна и да наблюдавате себе си какво изживявате. Както в един психологически експеримент.
They put 2 monkeys in 2 different cages.
Те сложили 2 маймуни в 2 различни клетки.
And they give one yellow bananas,
Едната й дали жълти банани,
and they give the other one green
а
bananas.
на другата зелени.
And they study the difference.
И изучавали
What happens to a monkey who eats green bananas, and what happens to a monkey that eats yellow bananas?
Какво става с маймуната, която яде зелени банани и с тази, която яде жълти банани?
So you're doing an experiment on yourself.
Просто трябва да направите експеримент в
You're engaging yourself in Krishna consciousness,
ангажирате себе си в Кришна съзнание,
just as the psychologist studies the monkey.
както един психолог изучава маймуните.
You should be how the bananas affect him.
Трябва той гледа как им действат банани.
You should be studying your own observing your own consciousness and see how it is being affected by the Maha Mantra.
Трябва да наблюдавате собственото си съзнание и да гледате, да следите как му въздейства Маха мантрата.
How it is being affected by cutting vegetables.
Как му въздейства рязането на зеленчуци.
For Krishna.
За Кришна.
How it is being affected by washing pots for Krishna.
Как му действа миенето на съдове за Кришна.
How it is being affected by singing and dancing for Krishna.
Как му действа пеенето и танцуването за Кришна.
How it is being affected by taking shelter of the lotus feet of the bona fide spiritual master.
Как му действа приемането на подслон в лотосовите нозе на.
How it is being affected by traveling to Sofia to live at the temple for a few days.
Как му въздейства това да пътува от София до София за 3 дена в храма.
The point is just as the scriptures are something worthy of study.
Въпросът е, че
The practical application of Krishna consciousness can also be studied.
Писанията могат да бъдат изучавани и практическото приложение също.
Observed and pondered with deep thoughtfulness.
Наблюдавайте и следете с
And I've had a
дълбоко внимание.
I've had a very good experience lately. Whenever I go back to our home base in Austin,
Аз имах един много добър...
I make a concerted effort to study the shlokas of Bhagavad Gita. I make a strong effort to study the verses of the Bhagavad Gita.
Аз...
Now, I'm very busy in the morning doing different services for the Radha Damodar.
Бях много зает да върша различни служения.
And then during the day, I'm very busy answering emails the whole day and writing my e-course.
Целият ден съм много зает да пиша, за да отговарям на имейлите.
So I only have 10 minutes for studying.
Имам само 10 минути за...
But I study for those 10 minutes with great intensity.
Но за тези 10 минути аз изучавам с много голямо внимание.
10 minutes is all I spend every day on studying. Right now.
10 минути. Сега имам само 10 минути.
But I'm memorizing and refreshing my memory of so many shlokas.
Но просто си упреснявам паметта за толкова много шлоки.
In 10 minutes I can cover a whole the key verses of an entire chapter of the Bhagavad Gita.
За толкова време мога да покрия основните, ключовите стихове на цяла глава на
So one day I can do chapter 7.
Един ден мога да мина глава 7.
Another day, another chapter.
Другия ден, друга глава.
In this way, just by 10 minutes of intense studying, I can learn so many things, learn so many verses.
Този начин на интензивно учене аз мога да изучаване мога да
So it's not that you have to, and then while I'm doing the service, I can recite the verses that I just memorized.
Докато служа, просто си припомням стиховете, които съм запаметил.
If you will spend 10 minutes every morning before you start working in the greenhouse, and learn one verse. Write it down on a little index card. Put it in your pocket. And then the whole day you just keep reciting that verse again and again. Make a list of all the key verses in the Bhagavad Gita you want to learn. If you don't know which ones, I'll email you a list of all the key verses in the Bhagavad Gita that you should learn. And make that your project. One verse a day will keep Maya away. And then you can, while you're doing your work, you can be chanting the verses, Karpanya dosho pahatta svabhava pricchami tvang dharma samudacheta yat shreyan shanishchitang bruhitang me trishyashtehang shadimang tvang prapanam, in this way, Natvevaham jatanasang. This way you can just learn so many verses. Make a little... What I did was I just took a little index card years ago, back in 1984. I just took an index card and put down all the verse numbers that I wanted to learn from the Bhagavad Gita. Then you just look at that, and you go down your list, and then you look in the book, you drill it until you get it, and then you have... It's not difficult. You just have to do it every day for at least 10 minutes. Anybody can spare 10 minutes a day. I don't care how busy they are. Anybody, do it early in the morning before you get in the mode of passion. Anybody can spare 10 minutes a day if they want to. Get up 10 minutes early every morning, that's all. And drill those verses, and then you'll have them in your head. When you're driving down the street, you can be chanting verses, Matak Sravang, in this way, what is it? So many verses you can be chanting. Sarvadharman Parityaja. So many verses are there.
Толкова много.
Jaggashishtashanashanto much. So many nice verses you can chant.
Има много прекрасни стихове, които можеш да повтаряш.
Any other questions? Yeah.
Просто време ми се случва, всякъде, с които се срещам труднините ми приятелите ми така на живота, всеки ми натяква, че трябва да започна да уча висше образование, че трябва да стана студентка и така. Но аз нямам това желание. И как мога да убеда хората, че няма нужда човек да как може да убеда моите роднини, че не искам да уча висше образование? Usually when I meet my relatives and friends from my current life, they all the time talk that, this Krishna consciousness is not enough, that one should become graduate in the university. So why don't you go to university and take course in the university? You have some big potential. This Krishna consciousness is not enough for you. You must learn, you must study in university. So they are talking all the time like this. And maybe this their only advice they give me all the time is you should study in the university. But I don't want to study in the university, and I would never study. I would never lose 5 years in my life just in secular university. So what should I tell them, these people?
Tell them I have studied. I have achieved a knowledge which is more advanced than the greatest PhDs. I have already achieved a knowledge which is higher than any PhD has achieved.
Аз съм постигнал знание, което вече съм постигнал, което е по-висше от това на най-издигнатия PhD.
And then you quote this verse. Tad Raja Vidya Raja Guyam Pavitram Idamuttamam Shikashavangamam Dharnam Shushukam Gadamam. You have to say it with complete confidence and conviction.
Трябва да го кажеш с пълна убеденост и вяра.
I've already become learned in the highest knowledge.
Вече съм посветена в най-висшето знание.
Would you ask a PhD to come and study in the first grade?
Ще кажете ли на един PhD да дойде да учи в първи клас?
Why should I come down to some elementary level knowledge
Трябва да слизам на такова елементарно ниво на знание.
when I have already achieved the supreme knowledge?
Когато съм достигнала най-висшето знание.
If you like, I will enlighten you in the supreme knowledge.
Ако искате, може да ви запозная и вас, да ви посветя и вас в най-висшето знание.
I didn't graduate from the university.
Аз не съм завършил университет.
I walked away from it. I said, this is irrelevant. This is meaningless garbage.
Това е безсмислено. Това е буклук.
I gave it up. I was making good grades in the university.
Аз го изоставих. Аз имах добре ми вървеше.
But it was, of course, I'm not saying, I have many students now. I'm not telling them to drop out because there's practical for earning livelihood.
Аз сега имам много ученици и не им казвам да го правят, защото е практично за да си изкарваш.
Prabhupada often told his disciples who were attending the university to finish their degree.
Прабхупад винаги е казвал на учениците си, които посещават университета, да си завършат.
But I do not know of any instance when he told someone who is not in the university to go to college.
Но аз не знам нито един пример, той да е казал на някой, който не е в университета, да отиде.
My godbrother Ravindra Sarup Prabhu, he was studying for a PhD.
Моят духовен брат Равиндра Сварупа Прабhu, той учеше за PhD.
All the devotees told him he should drop out.
Всички праведно отдадени му казаха, трябва да го остави го това.
But Prabhupada told him to go ahead and get his PhD.
Но Прабхупад му каза, отиди и вземи PhD.
So when in doubt, ask your guru. He's your authority in this regard.
Така че когато се съмняваш, просто питай своя гуру, той е твой авторитет.
But as a general rule, those who are already engaged in study, let them finish nicely.
Но общото правило е, ако следваш, просто си го завърши добре.
But those who are not so engaged, there's no necessity.
Но тези, които не са заети с това, няма нужда.
Questions more?
Още въпроси?
Yeah.
Трудно ми е да разбера как една армия може да има армия от квадрилиони, след като не мога да си представя населението на земята.
It's difficult to understand how it could exist an army of quadrillion people. Because I cannot imagine the earth population even.
Where is that army of quadrillion?
Where? It's in previous ages.
The quadrillion is a very big number.
It's mentioned that.
See, a billion is 1,000 million.
Yes. But it's true, I remember also.
And a trillion is 1,000 billions. And a quadrillion is 1,000 trillion. So what is that? A million millions? Who is a good mathematician? Who's a college graduate here?
Million billions.
Quadrillion, let's see.
1 million billions.
Million means there's not, actually a million is only six measly zeros, isn't it? So actually,
15 zeros.
huh?
15 zeros.
It's 15 zeros. That's even more than a million millions. It's a very big number. So you have a hard time thinking of quadrillion people? But quadrillion is nothing compared to infinity.
Квадрилиона нищо в сравнение с безкрайността.
There's an infinite number of jivas in this material world. Did you know that? Infinite.
Този материален свят има безкрайен брой живи същества.
So what's a quadrillion compared to infinity? It's nothing.
Така какво е един квадрилион в сравнение с всичко с...
So what's the difficulty, quadrillion warriors, if there's an infinite number of jivas? They can easily pull out a quadrillion from infinity.
Много лесно можеш да извадиш един квадрилион от безкрайността.
Just like taking a mustard seed out of a bag of mustard seeds. What is your quadrillion?
Просто все едно да вземеш едно си напено семенце да извадиш. Какво е квадрилион?
It's nothing. Practically nothing.
Практически нищо.
Questions more?
Още въпроси?
So everyone is now satisfied. All doubts have been erased.
Всички съмнения са изкоренени.
Now yes.
Скритата лекция да се казва, че Кришна съзнание е щастие на всяка крачка, просто удовлетвореност на всяка крачка. Но всеки преводаник понякога има много трудни моменти и просто това настроение е много трудно да бъде запазено.
In the lecture in the morning it was said that Krishna consciousness is satisfaction at every step.
Yes.
But susukham. But every one of us has some difficult moments where this mood is very difficult to
Yes.
keep.
That's right. That's confirmed by this purport. I was saying this morning that Krishna consciousness is susukham, it's simply recreation. But the point is being made that all of us have our difficult moments. So why would it be difficult if it's full of bliss? It's simply recreation. And that is answered by this sentence here. Where Prabhupada said it's difficult, therefore we have to approach the spiritual master. So the point is, I'm going to... Go ahead.
Каза се наистина, че Кришна съзнание е просто като почивка, като някакво безкрайно щастие.
The point is, it's only difficult when we leave the shelter of Guru's lotus feet.
Че е трудно само когато напуснем подслона на лотосовите ножа на Гуру.
If we forget our spiritual master, then it becomes very difficult.
Ако забравим духовния си учител, наистина става много трудно.
If you always, the injunction that we sing every morning is you should always remember your spiritual master. That's what we sing every morning. So if you forget your guru, then it becomes very difficult. That's a fact.
Това наставление, което се пееме всяка сутрин, че трябва да отдаваме почитание, ако наистина, ако става много трудно, ако забравим.
And if you always remember the spiritual master,
ако винаги помним духовния си учител,
then it is indeed susukam.
Тогава наистина е сусукам.
So always remember your spiritual master.
Така че просто винаги помни духовния си учител.
Never forget the spiritual master.
Никога не го забравя.
Any further question?
Още някакви въпроси?
Yeah.
Аз имам случаи, когато мога да раздавам четяни на много хора. От 300 до 1000 човека мога да раздам четяни. Но имам два случая, когато моля някой пределно даден, когато дадат някой градан, да го даде, да го раздам на хора. Не за мен, да го раздам. Обаче два пъти до сега са ми отказали категорично. Нали, под форма на някакъв егоцентризъм. Това правилно ли? И какво ще кажете по този въпрос?
Well, I can very often distribute flowers, very many flowers from up to 1,000 people. But I have twice been refused when I asked in the temple that they give me some garland to distribute it to people. And what can you say about that? They have refused. This is right. When I asked for some flowers to distribute it, not for myself. Or what it is?
I don't understand.
Saying that when he distributes flowers, sell them. So he just sells for his livelihood. But he asks the temple to give some flowers to distribute.
Some garlands.
Offer flowers.
Some garlands.
This you have to. This is not a philosophical question. This you have to meet with the temple management. It is a managerial question, not a philosophical question. Are there any other questions? All right, we'll stop here. Oh, here's a question. What does it mean to remember the spiritual master? And there are two forms of Shri Guru. There is Vapu and Vani. Either one of them, you can remember either one. You can remember the spiritual master, some of his pastimes. You can remember his smiling face. You can remember his divine chastisement. But the most potent form of remembering the spiritual master is to is to
на духовния учител
meditate on the instructions that you've received from him.
е да медитираш върху наставлението, които си
To always hold those orders in your heart as your most dear possession.
и да ги скъташ в сърцето си, като винаги като най-скъпото си притежание.
To always worship on the orders you have received with your spiritual master, the orders you have received from your spiritual master.
Винаги да обожаваш заповедите, които си получил от духовния си учител.
You keep your mind focused on those orders and do not allow yourself to be distracted by anything else.
Концентрирай ума си, дръж ума си върху тези заповеди и не позволяй никога да бъдеш отклонен от каквото и нищо друго.
That is first class Guru Smaranam.
Това е първа класа Гуру Смаранам.
To always remember the siksha, the instructions of the spiritual master.
Винаги да помниш наставленията на духовния учител.
Whatever order Guru Maharaj has given me,
каквато и заповед да ми е дал духовния ми учител, мой Гуру Махарадж,
I accept that order as my very life and soul.
аз приемам тази заповед като свой живот и душа.
Such a person will always be ecstatic.
Такава личност винаги ще бъде в екстаз.
He will never be in anxiety or disturbed.
Да бъде притеснена и разтревожена.
Questions more?
Още въпроси?
Yeah.
How can one become an expert in giving lectures?
How? Or?
How can one become
Yes. The way to become expert in giving lectures is to follow the pathway of His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Tri Dandi Goswami Maharaj Prabhupada.
тайната да начинът да станеш експерт в даването на лекции?
If you follow the Prabhupada Pata,
Пътя на Шрила Прабхупада.
you will become the most expert speaker.
Следвате неговия път, ще станете най-вещия
Do you know what is the Prabhupada Pata?
говорител.
You simply have to hear very nicely.
Просто трябва да слушате много, много добре. Какво е казал Шрила Прабхупада.
Prabhupada explained when he was attending the Vrindavan Parikrama, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati was preaching every night.
Прабхупада веднъж каза, че като по време на Вриндаван Парикрама, Шрила Бхактисиданта Сарасвати е проповядвал всяка нощ.
But Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, he would speak in very, very erudite English.
Но той говорил в много, много ерудиран английски, на много ерудиран английски.
The materialistic deminar cannot possibly stretch to the transcendental autocrat who is ever inviting the fallen conditioned souls to us. In this way he would speak.
Ето по този начин говорил.
Just to hear, follow his lecture, you have to have an unabridged dictionary there, looking up the words.
За да му следваш лекции, трябва да имаш пълен речник, за да си превеждаш думите.
So, in Vrindavan, you know, they have night, just like here in Sofia, there is nightlife.
В Вриндавана, също както и в София, имат нощен живот.
The bars, the brothels, so many nightlife, you know. Cinema.
Барове, кина.
So in Vrindavan, they have nightlife.
А в Вриндавана имат нощен живот.
Do you know what is the nightlife in Vrindavan?
Знаете ли какъв е нощния живот там?
They go for darshan
Те ходят на даршан
to the temple.
в храмовете.
So one evening, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, he's giving lecture on Krishna consciousness.
И една вечер Шрила Бхактисиданта Сарасвати Такур дал лекция за Кришна, по Кришна съзнание.
And almost all of the disciples, where did they go?
И почти всичките му ученици къде отишли те?
Did they sit at Guru Maharaj's lotus feet to hear Krishna Katha?
Били ли те в лотосовите нозе на Гуру Махарадж да слушат Кришна ката.
No, they went for darshan.
Те отишли на даршан.
Practically no one attended the lecture.
Практически никой не посетил лекция.
Only a small handful of devotees stayed here to hear the lecture of Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur.
Само малка шепа предано отдадени останали там да слушат лекциите на Бхактисиданта.
But there was one member in the audience, he was not initiated devotee.
Имало един член от аудиторията, който не бил посветен.
He was not a disciple.
Той не бил ученик.
Do you know what was his name?
Знаете ли какво е името му?
Abhay Charan Dey.
Абай Чаран Де.
A young businessman from Allahabad.
Бизнесмен от Алахабад.
He was sitting there and he said, I would understand or I would not understand, but I would simply go on hearing.
Той седял там и си казал, аз ще разбирам, ще разбера или няма да разбера, но просто ще продължавам да слушам.
He was very, very eager to hear every word coming out of Guru Maharaj's mouth.
Той бил много изключително силно желание и имал да слуша да чуе всяка дума излизаща от устата на Гуру Махарадж.
And then shortly after that,
Скоро след това,
the devotees, and just like in ISKCON, you have to be recommended by the temple president to get initiated.
също както в ИСКОН трябвало да сте предложени от духовния
So the local leaders in Allahabad,
и местния лидер в Алахабад,
they recommended to Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati,
те препоръчали на Бхактисиданта Сарасвати.
we would like to recommend this one young man, Abhay Charan Dey, to get Diksha.
Искаме да препоръчаме този младеж Абай Чаран Де да получи дикша.
So Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur said, yes, this boy hears very nicely.
Шрила Бхактисиданта Сарасвати казал, да, това момче слуша много добре.
Yes, I will initiate him because he hears very nicely.
Той слуша много добре, много хубаво.
So Prabhupada said,
И Прабхупад казва,
because I heard nicely,
понеже слушах добре, понеже чух добре,
now I can speak nicely.
сега аз мога да говоря добре.
So it is the Prabhupada pathway is very simple.
Пътя на Шрила Прабхупад е много прост, много лесен.
You can become the most expert preacher of Bhagavad philosophy.
Може да станете най-вещия проповедник на Бхагавата философия.
You will be empowered to defeat even the most erudite scholar.
Ще бъдете упълномощени да разбиете дори най-ерудираните учени.
All you have to do is hear very nicely.
Всичко, което трябва да правите е да слушате много хубаво.
And the full Shakti of Krishna will come to you.
И пълната шакти на Кришна ще дойде в вас, при вас.
Are there any more questions? All right, we'll stop here. Raja Vidya Srimad Bhagavad Gita ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai.